I didn't see it go live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Outside the Box, the podcast devoted to supporting Central PA small business. Today we have on the show Justin McClure of Daflure Heating, Cooling, and Solar. I mixed up because I usually had my name before that, but now I'm trying to say the guest before I go into my introduction so people know what to expect. So today we have Justin McClure of Daflure Heating, Cooling, and Solar. But before that, I'm your host, Derek Bixler, realtor and digital marketer right here in Central PA. I grew up on the Hill in Harrisburg, went to Mechanicsburg High School, went up to college in Pennsylvania, in Williamsport at Pennsylvania College of Technology. I've been here ever since, had a few sales jobs before I started selling real estate 15 glorious years ago. Contact me if you need to buy or sell a home. Text me, email me, throw a rock through my window, send a carrier pigeon, whatever you need to do. We need inventory like crazy. So contact me if you need to sell or buy. If you want to get all the networking mixer updates, the episode announcements, and the exclusive special offers, of which we will have one from Justin and Daflure, go to supportcentralpa.com and sign up for our email there. It's one email a week. It's me sending it. Sometimes it's late, but it gets out usually. Sometimes I miss a week, but it does get out. And you'll have some exclusive special offers in there. A reminder, if you're on Clubhouse, please follow me. I'm at Agent Derek. And every Thursday, 1 to 2, we have a room called Central PA Small Business Connect. And you can talk to other businesses in there. I won't geek out on what Clubhouse is, but you will find out soon, probably. A reminder to ask questions in the comments. If you have any questions, I'll try to bring them up. If we miss them, we will come back and answer them later. And a reminder that all the replays are on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the different places where you consume your content, and also on iTunes and all the audio players as soon as I have time to upload the hundreds of episodes we have now sitting there waiting to go. And without further ado, I will bring in Justin, who's on the wrong side, but because of the way his camera is, we switched him over. So I'm under his logo. Justin, hello. Tell us a little bit about yourself personally before we get into Daflure.
Yeah, good morning, Derek. Thanks so much for having me on, and sorry to change up your flow here. My camera's in the bottom left, so if my eyes are going another way, that's my excuse. But Justin from Daflure Heating, Cooling, and Solar. We're a second generation family owned small business in New Cumberland, right across the river from Harrisburg, and been in business for 42 years. Born and raised in Central PA, went to West Shore School District my whole life, Cedar High School. Was fortunate to go up to Penn State to get a degree in business. My mother or father neither had the opportunity to do college, so first generation college graduate. Got into the business in 2000, and here we are 21 years later. Married to my middle school sweetheart. Typically you don't hear that, but Laura and I met in 6th grade and dated for a while through middle school and high school. Did take a little rendezvous because our parents said you can't find your wife probably in middle school. It's not probably a good idea, but I don't know if they'll say that to their grandkids. So yep, Laura and I got married right after Penn State. We have 2 boys, Taylor 15 and Liam 8.
That's awesome. Sixth grade sweethearts is nuts. I don't know if I've heard of. I don't know anybody personally. I've seen people on TV that like met in daycare or something, but I've never met anybody back that far. I don't think in person. So, did you play any sports at Cedar Cliff?
Yeah, I played football and ran track. Interesting story. I gave up baseball when I went to Cedar Cliff because the Coach Craig, longtime legend there, wrestling and football coach, said, he wanted his football players running track for speed and training. But I broke my collarbone between my junior and senior year, and decided to play baseball my senior year of high school. Had a kind of breakout season, got a little lucky, and that's how I got up to Penn State. I actually played 2 years of baseball up at Penn State. Got cut my sophomore year. Kind of a big jump to take 4 or 5 years off of a sport and then go right to Division I. But was able to hold my own for first year, got redshirted, and then second year got cut halfway into the season. But it was a great run, and things happen for a reason. I'm a vertically challenged, so I don't think I was getting a football scholarship. And so getting the opportunity to go to Penn State and play a little baseball was a great experience, and got to graduate from there and spend 4 years up at University Park.
Yeah, this is like living the dream, going to play a sport at a major college. That's super awesome. What do we have the same exact mug?
I don't know. I have the
Yeah, I have that too. It's got a bank logo on it. It was a gift, but yeah, nice. It keeps it nice and hot and toasty or cold. So what position did you play?
Position, I was an outfielder. Again, vertically challenged. Most people say, well, you're a middle infielder, but went up there as a center fielder, played mostly left field the first 2 years. It's Penn State playing baseball. It's challenging. 6 weeks in the fall, you train, and then your season starts like the 7th of January, right when you get back from the winter semester, and you're literally like in your baseball gear with your bat and your glove and like all bundled up and walking through snow to get over to like Haluba Hall where the football players train. And we practiced indoors because it was so cold. And then the season, the official season kicked off at the beginning of February. And then you're jumping on a bus to head south, essentially. And we couldn't fly unless they were Big Ten games. So if it was non-conference game for the first month and a half, we were busing. And I don't know if they've changed that, but a little bit challenging playing baseball up in the Northeast. But now they've got a beautiful stadium up there. None of that was there when I played, but still a great opportunity. Met a lot of great people, got some lifelong friends, and it's just a blessing to be able to play a sport like you said, Division I. So a little bit lucky, a little bit of grit, I guess a little bit of ability.
Well, you're pretty fast, I guess. Outfitters run a lot, right? And you were fast from football and track and all that, so it kind of makes sense, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the one thing that translated, hopefully.
Well, that's super awesome, and everybody loves Penn State, and we're talking about Central PA and all that, so that's all fantastic. So when you were younger, you said you're second generation, so your dad was running Daflure, was called Daflure then? Was he running it then when you were young?
Yeah, it's a great question. Interesting thing. My grandfather was in the fuel oil delivery business in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. He had a business actually right where our location is here in New Cumberland. My grandparents got divorced in the 60s when that was not a popular thing. He ended up moving out to Las Vegas and was remarried. And my dad was about 12 years old when he headed out west, and my dad did not get the opportunity to graduate from college. So in 1979, my mom and dad decided to start our business called David F. McClure Company. My father's name's David, and we're still a C corporation registered as David F. McClure, but no relation to our friends at HB McClure Company or McClure Company. So there's a lot of McClures, and we've done Ancestry.com. Back 6 generations, and we don't even cross over at that point. So we're from the Huntington area. The McClure family that I'm part of is from the Huntington, middle part of the state. But when my wife and I bought the business in 2006, we rebranded it as Daflure, DA for David, F for his middle initial, LURE for our last name, and just to differentiate. And probably all things considered, 16 years later, we're glad that we did it, but doing that in 2006, right before the Great Recession, was not the best, probably the best things, but best of timing. But here we are, we're still talking about it, and we do brand under Daflure, but we're still a C corporation registered as David F. McClure Company.
So then when did you start getting involved? Was it right after college? What did you go to? Did you say what you majored in college?
Yeah, business management with a minor in human resources. I was that kid. I was born the same year the business was started. So I was the kid, in the pickup truck with my dad as he's out doing calls. Oldest of 4 siblings. None of the siblings wanted to get involved in the business. But I was kind of there, working in the summertime at high school and college, and then graduated in 2000. And, I like to tell the story that I asked my dad if I could take 2 weeks off after I graduated. He says, "You've just had 4 years off." I graduated on like a Friday and like started work on a Monday, and here we are 21 years later. So he thought giving us an opportunity to get an education, we had enough fun while we were in college, which is probably right.
Well, it's good you come from a hard worker. You learn how to work hard. And from what I know, for you, I didn't mention we're in a networking group together. So we interact some and I know you a bit. And you always seem very articulate and good at business and very good at what you do. So I'm sure it came from your grandfather and your father and everything handed down. So before we talk about Daflure a little bit more, I want to talk about your family life and what you do for fun and all that kind of stuff. I saw surfing in your bio. I think I've heard you say you like surfing before, but obviously you can't surf around here. So where did you learn to surf? How do you like surfing? Where do you go surfing now?
Yeah, we are landlocked, obviously, in Pennsylvania, but we enjoy getting out on the Susquehanna River. And my dad, we didn't have much. When I was born, we lived in a trailer over here in New Cumberland, but we always had good air conditioning. And my dad always had a boat because he was an avid fisherman. So I actually learned to surf behind a boat, and we still do that. We make our own wave down here on the river or up at Raystown Lake. We love going up there as a family camping, and it's called wake surfing. So I learned behind a boat first to surf, but my uncle, who was our warehouse manager, he's 72 years old. He still surfs. And him and I would literally get up on a Saturday morning. It's a little bit harder now with a family and kids, but for a few years, we would get up at 5 a.m, drive down to Wildwood Crest or Avalon, and we'd surf for the day and then drive home. So made it a long day. But now, my son being 15 enjoys surfing. We typically we have a timeshare in Cabo, St. Lucas. So we typically we'll go on a surf trip every summer to Cabo, and we just anything water related. We love doing it. So it's a little bit harder in PA, but there are ways.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of great lakes, like you said, Raystown and other lakes. At Raystown, you can go really fast. You could have a speedboat on Raystown, couldn't you?
Oh yeah.
Not that you need that to surf on, but so the surfing you're talking about is not towing behind. You're talking about actually surfing the wake, or do you tow to get going first?
Yeah, you tow to get going. Great question. You tow to get going, and then you want to do this on what's called an inboard boat because on an outboard you have a prop back there, so it's not very safe. But we're actually surfing the wake, and by using ballast or weight in the boat, and by using trim tabs, we can actually create a wake on the left or the right side of the boat, depending if you're regular or goofy footed. And we've taught a lot of people in the last 30 years, how to do it. And you're going really slow, actually 9.5 miles an hour. Your feet aren't in any binding. So it's actually pretty safe relative to water skiing because, your feet aren't locked into the board. But we pull up and then we throw the rope back into the boat. And then just with weight shift and staying on edge and using the wake, we can stay there and do some surfing.
Huh. That's super. I've wakeboarded before and water ski, but I've never tried the surfing, and that was super fun. So there's actually some part of the boat, there are attachments to the boat and things you do to the boat to manipulate the wake as well.
Yeah, just in normal trim tabs that's on a lot of boats. I mean, I grew up with, just a pretty normal inboard boat that didn't have anything set up for it. But I think it started in California or Las Vegas out at like Lake Mead and kind of gravitated this way. And you can shift the boat weight and the tab to create that wake. But now we're fortunate enough to own a boat that now you just press buttons to create, if you want to wave left or wave right, if you want it mellow for someone that's learning or you want it steep. So now the technology is actually built into the boating industry that you can buy a wakeboard or wake surf boat to be able to do those sort of things.
Huh. I had no idea. So they make boat. So this actually, that's super awesome. So have you ever done I've seen somebody do a hydrofoil thing?
Yeah, we do foiling. We started that probably about 3 or 4 years ago. It's my Facebook page. There's probably a couple of videos of us foiling, but that's super fun too. So it's similar, but the foil gets you off the water. Like our foil is 29 inches. I think they make them up to like 36, 38 inches, but same thing. You don't need a rope. The cool thing about that is it can be really busy on a Saturday down at Goldsboro on the Susquehanna. and the foil just cuts right through the wave. So that's an evolution. I mean, they're getting into kite surfing with foils and doing all kinds of. I mean, they're making sailboats with foils on them now. So that technology is really growing.
That looks really awesome. You're pumping me up here. I think we should have a Central Penn networking group day on the river up in Goldsboro or something.
We can do that.
You don't happen to have a cabin on the island, do you?
We don't. But when I grew up on the river down here at Goldsboro, a good friend did. Had a lot of great times out there at Shelley Island.
Nice. Yeah, right after college, one of my college buddies bought a boat, and his family had a little house or whatever. It was pretty much a mobile home, whatever. There was a little place where we used to go out there, and our goal was to hurt each other, basically. So we would water ski and do the wakeboarding and everything, but then we get out just the tow thing and just try to get the person off, and that was always fun.
Yeah, that can be dangerous. I know people that have had several concussions getting thrown off the tube. Water at 40 miles an hour doesn't seem like it, but it's like concrete. So
yeah, it is. Looking back at it, I wouldn't advise it, and I wouldn't do my kids to do it, but we were definitely doing it. And you just kind of skip across and ball up, and yeah. So don't do that, everybody. But it was fun for us. So let's talk about Daflure a little bit. Just tell us a little bit of a rundown, generally, of all the services you provide.
Yeah, Daflure, we are a full service HVAC company doing everything from residential to large industrial work. But we like to say that we're truly in the business to provide, customers or clients better comfort, help lower utility costs, and create, an environment that's healthy indoors. And, just been really fortunate during the COVID is we've been in the space of indoor air quality for 25 years as people spend a lot of time in their homes, and just by having proper filtration or adding UV, these are things that have multiple benefits than just cleaning the air. They actually help maintain the system efficiency for longer periods of time. So that's a space that's been really relevant over the last 12 to 15 months. Again, we are a company that never uses scare tactics. It's not, we don't come out and say, you have to have this. We just try to be an educator to anybody, whether they use us or not, of, what's out there. And many of our clients were, pretty much set up, ready to go when COVID happened because, coronavirus has been around for a really long time, and they've done a lot of virus research with UV technology. And again, we started putting UV into systems 25 years ago to keep the integrity of an indoor coil clean, to keep microbiological like mold. We don't like using the word mold, but mold off of a coil. And if your coil got moldy, not only was the indoor air quality, which we probably all should have been more concerned about, should have been the number one priority, but we were really concerned about keeping the integrity of the spacing so that the air could get through the coil and be properly conditioned. So UV people that might be listening might have that on their well system. And for 40 years, people have done that to keep their water, being in real estate, you might have a house that you're selling that has a well, and you might get the water tested. And if there is bad water quality, a lot of times they recommend something like a UV bulb. So UV's been around for a really long time. COVID has made it, extremely relevant, but there's a lot of great benefits of being in the indoor air quality space for us, because we're also trying to keep the home comfortable and efficient while maintaining that health.
Is it actually just a light?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's a lot of different products out there, and a lot of it's evolved into LED lights, which are lasting longer. But it really is just a light strategically placed. And there are some dual purpose or tri-purpose type bulbs where they're going to clean the coil, clean the air, maintain the integrity of the actual the coating on the coil. And then there's other that we might just put in a duct system that's simply for somebody that wants to clean the air. That maybe we can't get it in above their evaporator coil, and that's the inside coil of your HVAC system. So there's several different brands and several different kinds out there, but that's all it is a bulb strategically placed within the HVAC system to accomplish the goals of the customer or the client.
Are there any other things in addition to the UV light that people we're kind of coming out of COVID now, hopefully, knock on wood and all that, but are there other things that people can do regarding their HVAC system to keep them safer in their houses? Or office buildings? That's probably more important than all these people getting together in office buildings.
Yeah, making sure that, one, people don't think about, like we always try to say, we're not in the business of really messing with the envelope of the house, but making sure that the house these houses are built so tight that they breathe. And so you want your house to be able to breathe. And if it's so tight because of insulation that it can't breathe, then, we're worried about getting a little bit of fresh air brought into the building in the proper way. So you want your house in a slight positive pressure. If you cook Cajun catfish and you smell that for 2 days after you cooked it, that's a great indicator that your house is extremely tight, which is great for energy efficiency, but it's not necessarily the greatest thing for health. Always bothers me. I'm a huge, I hate even dropping a name, but I'm a huge Subway fan. But if you ever walk into Subway and you walk out of Subway, I smell like Subway a little bit. And
that's on purpose. I think they pump that bread smell out there too.
Smell out there, yeah. So that's an indication that that indoor air quality might be able to be improved. Not that it's unhealthy, but I don't like going to lunch with a couple of coworkers and then smelling like it the rest of the day. So if you have a house that's doing that, there are things by bringing in fresh air, putting it under a positive pressure. Then we can start looking at if those things are done right, then start looking at filtration or UV. And filtration is measured by MERV, M-E-R-V, MERV rating. And the higher the MERV, the better the filtration. And so, COVID has really pushed people to consider, a MERV rating that's at 13 or 14 or higher. But, again, that's not, it hasn't been the norm. MERV 8, MERV 11 has probably kind of been the norm when you go to Home Depot or Lowe's and buy a filter that's 1 inch. But again, if folks are concerned about improving the quality of the indoor air quality, looking for a little bit higher MERV rated filter is a good thing. And it's pretty cost effective to do that. Then beyond the filtration is maybe looking at UV. HEPA has been around for a really long time. That's, in hospitals and things like that. And HEPA is just a fancy way to say that it's going to get a piece of dirt that is way smaller than you and I can see. It's going to remove 99.7% of those particulates at a really, really small level. And so our average HVAC system that might even have a MERV 14 or 15 filter in it won't have the ability to do what a HEPA system does. But it's not, I don't have HEPA in my own house. I have a good MERV 11 filter with a UV bulb. So it's all about balance. It's about accomplishing what the customer, wants to accomplish, and just being realistic about it a little bit too. You can do overkill, no doubt about it.
And what about air movement? I think I've heard you say leave your fan on all the time now, or how does that help?
Great point. Yeah. I preface that if you have an older system that is non-variable speed, so if your fan runs at the same speed all the time, so if you go to your thermostat and you turn it from auto to on, if the air coming out of the registers, whether it's out of the ceiling or out of the floor, if that air is continuously at the same rate, it could cost you about $2 a day to operate that fan. So over a month period, that's $60. That's a little bit expensive. But we do say that continuous air movement will help. One, it takes hot and cold spots out of your house. So one of the bad things, if anyone grew up with a house that had radiators or baseboard heat in it, even electric baseboard, which is inefficient, it's comfortable. There's not air movement. You can turn the thermostat in each room to a certain spot. So we've all wanted to get to the point where we have central.
You can lay on it before school. I used to, the one in our living room before I had the cover, and I would just lay on it right before going out.
The pets lay up against them. I mean, that convective heat is awesome. But what it didn't provide us was air conditioning. So most of the houses now, we want air conditioning. And so when there's a duct system in the house, why not use that for heating and cooling? But the bad thing on, forced air systems is usually we have only one or maybe two thermostats in the house. So there's hot and cold spots. So that's a great point you make. Running a continuous fan, and if it's variable speed fan, it's only 17 cents a day to operate that fan. So at our Pennsylvania, 7.5 cents a kilowatt hour rating. But you take hot and cold spots out of the house. You're filtering the air 24/7. You're running it passive. You have a UV. It's more passes past that UV system. So there's a lot of benefits to continuous air circulation in the house. It's a great point you bring up.
What about humidifiers?
Humidifier.
I've had a couple builders. Some builders now, everybody gets a humidifier above a certain price range because they don't, all the cracking and or whatever that happens. They don't even, it's not even an option now. Just everybody gets a humidifier.
Yeah, we're in a climate area, and with the tightness of the houses where it gets really dry. So if you're shocking yourself in the, walking around in socks in the wintertime and you shock yourself, those are indications that your house is extremely dry, and adding a humidifier can offset that, and it's healthier.
Wait, so you can stop shocking throughout your house by adding a humidifier?
You can drastically reduce it. Reduce it. So it's unbelievable if you can maintain a 40% relative humidity in the wintertime, or a little bit higher. If we get it too high, maybe 55%, and the outside humidity in the middle of January is really low, if you get condensation on your windows, you probably are adding a little bit too much humidity for the outside conditions. So that's something you got to keep your eye on, because you can get a microbial growth on your windows, kind of like a bathroom. You might see it, on your shower, your tub. You can get that in other places in the house by adding too much humidity to the home. Even though we might feel a little bit more comfortable, it's probably a little bit too much with the differential. But yeah, adding humidifiers, I just preface that we all have hard water in Pennsylvania, whether it's city or well, and there's maintenance with humidifiers. So if you can do without a humidifier, if you are comfortable without a humidifier, it is a item of maintenance that you can avoid, essentially. But a lot of times the builders, unfortunately, because of how warranties work with hardwood and how subcontractors work with maybe putting trim in the house, they're saying, they're doing a one year punch list on a brand new house, and they've got hardwood that's, shrunk up, and they have cracking, like you said, or drywall pops. And so from a warranty perspective, these builders are putting humidifiers in to try to keep the moisture in the house up. And I would say we have, our premier builders are doing the same thing. I have a humidifier in my house. It's just your HVAC system is one of those things, like, no one really loves spending any money on it. And you like it to be in the basement or in the attic and don't think about it. It just works. But as you add filtration, if you add humidification, those are all things that you just got to pay attention to properly maintaining. And if you're properly maintaining them, they're going to work great for you, and they're going to enhance your indoor home comfort. But if you're not maintaining them, humidifiers are those things that you go down into the basement and the pad hasn't been changed in 2 years, and you got, a lot of calcium buildup, and you got water in the basement. If it's unfinished, it's probably not a really big deal. But if you got a partial finished basement and you got water running down there and you really don't pay attention to the system, we still have people that, they moved into their house 8 years ago. They hear about our comfort club. We might talk about a little bit. It's a planned maintenance program. We go out there in year 8. They've never changed their air filter out. Oh, we didn't know we had an air filter. So, no judgment on that. I mean, again, if you came from a house that didn't have, a forced air system, you might not have had an air filter. But changing filters, maintaining things, that's just one of the necessary evils of your car. I mean, you wouldn't run 100,000 miles without doing an oil change, or at least if you want your engine to last. And they say in the HVAC industry in Pennsylvania, we have our running hours for our system in a 12-month period of time is equivalent to about 100,000 miles a year on your vehicle. So, really making an investment in the system of at least changing the filter is relatively minor for how well the system does perform over the course of, the history of the house.
And that's actually a good segue into kind of the services that you provide. And obviously you provide routine maintenance or tune-up of some sort, right? So what should people be doing on a regular basis to keep everything humming and running smooth?
Sure. Yeah. And we, I don't know that I fully got in, but we do, preventative maintenance. We do demand service. Obviously, if someone has something that's down, we do new installations for new home construction, custom homes. We do radiant heat. We do solar. And then we obviously, if our bread and butter, if there's an existing home, we love coming out, giving folks a budget of how much is it going to be to change this thing out? If it's if your system's 15 years old or older, 15 plus years old, it's getting to the point where you're probably going to have to invest in a new system at some point. So one way to make sure that system lasts as long as it possibly can is preventative maintenance. And we've been doing oil changes on our car for forever. And we have a program called our Comfort Club, where we have several different tiers of the program, 3 different tiers, where we either come out once or twice a year and just kind of give a health check. It's like going to the doctors for a physical, height, weight, blood pressure, just, how's Justin or how's Derek doing this year? We do that for your home HVAC system, so that hopefully when you need it in the middle of July and it's 95 degrees and you're having a 4th of July party, or Christmas time, holiday time, you're having family come into town. Those are the last times. We run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We can come out on Christmas Day, but anyone, including our guys, prefer it not to happen on those days. And so planned maintenance is a good way to try to get to prevent that from happening, making sure the filter gets changed at least twice a year, making sure the amp draws on a compressor, whether you have air conditioning or a heat pump, are at a normal range, making sure that the temperature split between the air going out of the registers and the air coming back is about 20 degrees. Those are some of the indications, like taking your blood pressure or taking your weight, that we look at so that we can make sure that a house, a home system or office system is working properly. So when you need it, it's there for you.
So do you provide the filters and stuff when you come out? That 2 times a year, right? You said, are they, if it needs a new filter, you have the filters for it, all that, yada, yada?
Most of the time, yeah. The guys are fairly well stocked up, and we keep relatively good records of those sort of things. It depends on the tier, whether someone pays an extra $8 for a filter or they're in a program that we include the filters in there. But absolutely, we try to be prepared with everything. If there's a contactor that's pitted, we want to try to show the homeowner, like, come out, this is pitted. It might go for another year, it might go for 2 years, it might fail, right in the middle of June when it gets to the hot point. So just giving folks options and having an idea of what it is. You might be selling your house. Again, you need inventory. Derek needs inventory. So you might be selling the house and saying, hey, I don't want to invest $10,000 or $11,000 in putting a new HVAC system in, but at least maintaining it, having some service records for the next buyers. I will say, and you probably run into this, is, an HVAC unit is a larger ticket item. So putting a new HVAC system in, even at the minimum efficiencies of where we're currently at, which is 13 SEER, is typically something that's appealing to a buyer, because they're not going to have to deal with that, for the next, hopefully, 15 years.
Yeah, and it's going to be comfortable. Here's a question. How do you fix, and we're going to talk about more, but this is kind of a tangent. How do you fix if one room never gets warm or never gets cold, or you don't get enough air in that room? Is there a way to fix that?
Great question. There's kind of like our bodies a little bit is like, we've got our heart and we've got a body, and we can have a body that looks really physically fit, but you could have a blockage in your heart, and your body kind of could have a really adverse reaction because of something you can't really see. And so the duct system is something that a lot of people don't talk about, and you can put a brand new system in, brand new, the highest efficiency thing, and still be uncomfortable because the ductwork might not have been properly installed from the get-go. And so the tricks of that is figuring out what is the load of the room. Is this room on the west side of the house? It's the master bedroom. It's always hot because the sun sets in the west, and I'm always hot in there. And so you can maybe add a duct if the duct works in the basement or the attic, and we can get to it. You can add more volume to that space. There are duct fans that actually will get more air to the room when the system's actually operating. That's the bad thing of having one thermostat in a room that's uncomfortable. If the thermostat's in the middle of the house, it's set at 72. It says, hey, Derek, I'm happy. I'm shutting the system down. But it doesn't realize the master bedroom or the home office that folks are spending a lot of time in is 3 or 4 degrees difference. If it's your house that you're going to be in 10 plus years, and the duct system is not sufficient, then ductless technology has come so far and is so awesome. Putting a ductless unit, but they actually make ductless units where if someone doesn't want to see a wall unit, you could put it, above the ceiling or below it. But really in a space that you spend a lot of time, basements, bonus rooms, master suites, we've left the existing system 15 years old with those little idiosyncrasies into the home, but we've retrofitted a ductless unit for $3,500, $4,000, $4,500, providing a thermostat for that room. Now you have redundancy. If your primary system goes down, at least one part of the house has some sort of conditioning going on. And if you put a thermostat in that space, almost guaranteed it's going to solve the problem. So, those are the different tricks of, balancing the system, adding a supply, putting a duct fan in, or sometimes replacing the equipment. Again, that variable speed fan I talked about, running the fan continuously. I really recommend that on 2-story houses where the second floor is always hotter than the first floor in the summertime. And so a continuous fan operation will help kind of get that a little bit closer. 3 to 5 degrees we can probably all live with. 7 to 10 degrees, if you're going to bed and your thermostat's at 72 and on the first floor and it's 80 and you're trying to sleep on your second floor, that's really not acceptable. So continuous fan might solve that without spending any sort of money. But if you're going to be in that house for a while, trying to get a thermostat in that space that it's important to you is always the best way.
So what's in new construction, they are now, because the houses are so tight, they now have to put this fan that purposely blows air out and circulates air. I don't understand it, just make the house less tight, right? Or I don't get it. But so tell me about that a little bit. I don't quite understand it.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's a group of people just like you and me that are sitting around this table, and they've all got an agenda. And so you got the people that says, hey, our electric grid is really tapped out, and so we need people to use less electricity. That's why PP&L or Med-Ed have utility rebates to get us to invest in higher efficiency HVAC equipment. So in new construction, what they do is try to force the envelope to be tighter, but then it gets so tight that the indoor air quality is not healthy. And so the indoor air quality people are saying, hey, you've made this house super tight. We've got great windows in it. We've got super insulation. It doesn't breathe at all. Now you've got to bring fresh air into the house, or you've got to ventilate the unit. So that's why it's all about balance. We're more on the side of let the house breathe a little bit and don't go quite as tight. Because the systems are really getting efficient. And I think the houses are maybe getting a little bit too efficient for indoor air quality because it's a balance, right? You want lower utility bills, you want comfort, but you don't want your house so tight that, when those furniture and everything else you buy off gases, you want that to get outside. So that's what that fan is. It's crazy. The master bath fan, they're going to leave it on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's going to suffice business code. But you're just taking all that conditioned air that you just paid to condition and you're taking it outside. And it's kind of like, it's not good for the energy efficiency, and it's really not solving the indoor air quality problem the way you should solve it. but it's like a group of people sitting around the room trying to agree on something. That's what they come up with.
Yeah. Every time we do a new home orientation, they go over this fan and I just have shut my mouth up now. I'm like, I hate this thing. All the things but whatever. It is what it is, I guess. So what about, can you get a whole house fan? I'm a big fan of whole house fans, but obviously nobody does them anymore. If one wanted one, would you get one?
We don't put whole house fans in, but many of our partners that are electricians would put that in, and they're terrific. I mean,
they make the parts though. You could buy a whole house fan.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You can still, and probably 1 out of 30 or 40 new construction houses will have someone that puts it in. They don't want to run their air conditioning when it's 65 degrees overnight. Even if it's 65 degrees overnight, if it was 80 all day, the house has a hard time cooling itself off because it's so tight, So opening those windows and creating that venturi in the house by putting a whole house fan on the second floor or in the middle of the house on a single story certainly works. You're also bringing in, if pollens, allergens, those sort of things. That's the one drawback, is the house is a little bit less healthy. If you put a whole house fan in and you're trying to put devices like filtration or UV in to help with that. But for the right, with the right expectations, folks that had good luck with that, we still see them put in. We just don't put them in as Daflure.
Yeah, every time we look at it, nobody knows, no home buyers, they never know what this thing is. And if you do turn them on during the showing, usually a bunch of dust falls out of it. So everybody back up, we'll turn it on, I'll show you, and you have to open a window for it to actually show you what it's doing too.
Yeah.
But so explain solar a little bit. You've added it used to be heating and cooling, and the solar part is somewhat new, right? Tell us a little bit about that division, what you do, and what solar is, how it works.
Yeah, we've always been, a company that wanted to try to adopt technologies that save money. And we jumped into solar in 2009 when a lot of other people did, because of the Pennsylvania had state rebates. It's called the Sunshine Grant Program. But here we are, 12 years later, 11 years later, still doing solar, still a small portion of our total, totally what we do as a company. But we love it because when you do solar electric on a house, it's one of those things that doesn't have any moving parts. And if it's done right from the get-go, it just sits there and works for the next 30 or 40 years. And so it's been a great offering for us. One of our, differentiators or competitive advantages, I think, over solar companies is that, we're hopefully going to be in business regardless of incentives. If the federal tax credit, which is 26% for geothermal or solar, if that goes away, and our solar goes down by 50%, we still, are a traditional mechanical contractor standing on our own 2 feet with or without it. But it's a great offering for our customers, new or existing customers. We've really enjoyed it. Again, people typically will not call the neighbor and say, come look at my brand new HVAC system in the basement. They don't do that. But they get solar, and even if it's, we try to hide it on the back of the roof, we can put solar electric on any part of the house that's due east, which in Pennsylvania is actually about 101 degrees. If you have, pull out your compass on your phone, from 101 to 281 degrees, which would be due west. Anywhere in that 180 degree spectrum, you can place solar. So a lot of people don't want to see it on the front of their house. But they're longer payback. Our electricity relatively is still cheap in Pennsylvania. And so it's going to take somewhere between 9 and 14 years, depending on how much solar. Usually your payback, the more you invest up front, the larger the tax credit is and the faster the payback is. But again, you got that larger investment. So solar is one of those ways to hedge yourself against future increases. And it's to make the home more efficient. Whether you have gas in your house or you have, you heat with electricity, it doesn't really matter. We kind of look at the house holistically and say between your envelope, between, windows, insulation, HVAC, solar, what's your roof look like, all those sort of things, just try to put it together And again, we're not in the insulation or the window business, but it plays into an envelope. So sometimes the best place for people to start, if you look in your attic and you only have about 8 inches of insulation up there, the best place to start, because 80% of our heat gain or our heat loss is through our attics, is actually starting with insulation. The window companies do a way better job marketing, but insulation, quite honestly, in my personal opinion, does way more for our energy efficiency than windows do. Windows would be second. So solar is just a component of that individuals that are going to stay in the home usually for a while. We do not do solar leasing. So you would own the infrastructure, and we have moved it. We've had people that moved like 7 years ago. We put solar in, and they're going to take it to their new place. So that is a possibility.
So what are they just, the roof is messed up then? Basically, or you just patch the holes where the thing was, and the buyers accept that, I guess. I'd have a hard time as a buyer's agent, but.
Yeah, the interesting thing is the tabs that we use, the solar feet that we use, there's a minimal penetrations in the roof. And once the foot is removed, it's like a aluminum pad that is almost the size of a shingle. So we pull a shingle tab out, we put this solar foot in. There's one lag bolt that goes usually down in through the truss or the joist in the attic. And when we back that foot out and then place a shingle back on there, the integrity of the roof is usually the same, and people couldn't tell, but they do disclose it. But if somebody like, hey, I don't care if there's solar in the house, then, again, in this market, where you have multiple competing offers, it's probably not happening. But 5 to 7 years ago, we would do 2 or 3 solar moves a year. I can't remember in the last 2 years that we've done. But we do, people might have solar and someone else did the install. We try to say if the roof has less than 10 years of life on it, we don't want to put solar in there without looking at the roof, because we don't want to add that cost and complexity to it. But other companies that are really just in the business of putting as many panels out there as possible might not pay attention to that. So we have in the last 2 years had to unrack some panels for someone to put a roof on. Something we don't love to do, but again, trying to provide a service it's hard to find companies that are willing to do that from a liability perspective, and then the know-how of just putting it back together.
So what I know, all the leasing company, I won't name names, but I've sold houses with the solars on it, and they're leasing it, and it's a whole pain in the butt. Anything that makes anything more complicated is a pain in the butt. But on this particular house, they were on the front, so it didn't look so great. But aside from that, there was a lease, so they had to transfer the lease. The new owners also had to have good enough credit to transfer the lease over to them, or I guess it's a lease, or it's a lease purchase agreement, or whatever it is. And the whole thing was just complicated, and they weren't really saving any money, and they just got it a year before. So I like what I'm hearing, that you can take it with you, and also it's not a lease, but it did bring to mind. So obviously a lot of people can't pay out of pocket to put these things in. Do you provide financing, or how do they get financing if they don't get it through you? And what if somebody put it on their roof, didn't want to move it, but the new people said, I'll take over that financing?
Yeah, I don't know that we've ever had someone take over the actual financing, but there's definitely tools out there. A lot of times the home equity loan is the best way to do solar financing, though Keystone is a subsidized, Pennsylvania subsidized financing program that's out there for energy efficiency improvements to the home. Train and Daikin are our big HVAC brands. They do a really good job of getting partnerships with like the Wells Fargos of the world to provide like no interest financing for a period of time. Solar is so segmented that we don't really have, unfortunately, those programs. But usually individuals looking to invest in solar, they're coming to Daflure. They own their homes. They've got plenty of equity. They're looking to make a further enhancement to the home. And so whether they either have the money saved up or they have the equity. I mean, our average solar system is probably about $15,000 before the tax credit. So it's not like it's, 11 years, 12 years ago, our average solar system was probably $35,000 because it was just that costly. But one thing the incentives have really done is brought the cost of installations way down. literally by 70%. And it's just because there's so many more players out there putting modules together, putting panels together. The supply and demand has been there.
I've been seeing Facebook ads lately. I don't know why they're directed at me. Maybe I have a tree hugging nature or something, but it's for batteries. It's for Tesla batteries, some company that sells home batteries, probably made by Tesla, I'm guessing. But so do you have batteries yet? Are they coming? Are they here? What's the deal with the batteries?
Yeah, we're excited about the batteries. I don't know that we tried 4 years ago. I'm a Tesla fan. I'm a Tesla driver. We tried to, get a partnership, but Tesla really wanted people that could put, 500 batteries in. We thought we might be able to put in 10 to 15 batteries a year. But we definitely have vendors that have batteries. Batteries add a little bit of complexity to the system, and they add to the upfront investment. But again, if you're considering a generator and you're considering solar, then battery storage is a really good thing, because when the power goes out, people ask all the time, can I use my solar? Well, power usually goes out, because of a thunderstorm and or in the wintertime because of an ice storm, and your solar is not going to perform really well if it's not, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We really do an investment scenario with solar based off of sun getting on the house in Pennsylvania about 4 hours a day. So the beauty of the battery power is you're storing the energy for when you might potentially need it. And so that's coming. It's evolving. Certainly in my house, if I was going to do it right now, I think I would still do it with Tesla. I don't even know that I would do it for myself, just because they're so far ahead of the competition on those sort of things. But I really encourage, listeners, people that, are considering solar, own your infrastructure. Those leasing deals, I've heard that from every realtor, man. They're complex. You're really not gaining the full benefit of it. The one thing that it has done is it's gotten a lot more volume of solar out there. So I think it's helped bring costs down. But it is a complex system. And the average person, are they still moving every 5 to 6 years, Derek, in the real estate world? So, if you're going to lease it, and the solar is going to be on there for 20, 30, 40 years, you could have 4 or 5 different realtors having to deal with jumping through those hoops at closing for that lease system. I think most of those leases are 20 years. But you could have 3 different, buyers in a 20-year period of time.
Yeah. A 20-year lease with 10 years left on the roof, 5 years left on the roof. A lot of time, like you said, they just kind of slap it up there, and a lot of people. So we won't go too far into that. I had one more question about solar before we talk about the Comfort Club, before we close it out. Can you put them in the yard or like on stands and do that kind of thing too? Obviously, zoning and codes permitting and stuff. But if you had a bunch of land, could you put a solar farm out in your field?
You certainly could. Ground mount systems typically are a little bit more costly than utilizing the roof, because the infrastructure is kind of there. If it's not shaded and it's somewhat between due west and due east, it's better to put it on the roof from a cost perspective. But if you have 3 acres of ground and you really want to put a lot of solar, I mean, we have some customers say, I don't want a utility bill. I want it to be net zero. I want to put that much solar out. And absolutely, you can do those sort of things. I just look at California and Texas. I think Florida's this way too, with net metering, where they're basically saying, we'll let you get to zero, but we're not going to have the utility companies. In Pennsylvania right now, they'll send you money back, but the utility companies hate doing that. So if our legislation changes, if the PUC says, we're not going to give you over 100%, we more like kind of getting to like 80. If someone wants to go to zero, let us get you to 80%, because then you're going to not lose the benefit of what you might have invested in. But you can absolutely, we do ground mount or roof mount installations.
Awesome. And is that, obviously you don't have to mess with the roof then if you move it or something, and you don't have to pay for the stands anymore and all that stuff. Awesome. So tell everybody a little bit more. We mentioned the Comfort Club, but tell everybody a little bit more about it, maybe how much it costs, if there's a certain cost for it, and what they get with it before we go to our unrelated funny question.
Sure. Our Comfort Club, again, is just a planned maintenance program. It's kind of like getting an oil change on. You might have a warranty on your system, but you still got to provide that planned maintenance. And the cost of our planned maintenance is anywhere between $189 and about, I think, a little bit over $300 for our gold package. We are offering everybody, just like we do in our network group, Derek and I are part of CPNG that we love, is 10% across the board if anyone just mentions CPNG to any of my coworkers when they call in. It's on our website at daflure.com. Too, you can check it out a little bit more. But we're coming out either once a year at the lowest level, or on the middle and the highest level, we're coming out twice a year on residential systems. We do have some commercial clients that have us out more often, but it's just a good check on your system. Again, you might have been in your home 8 years and had no problems. Why do I make that sort of investment in my home HVAC system? At least maybe do it once every 2 to 3 years, just to get to see where it's at. Because again, typically these sort of things, your HVAC system, that you want to let it and forget it, they don't break when it's a day like today, 55, 60 degrees. We don't need much heating and cooling. They're breaking when you need it. So
the true way to let it and forget it is to get the comfort package or get somebody that's going to just come and do it, and it's out of your mind. They keep it going, and then you don't have anything catastrophic. I've had some catastrophic things, and the water and the freezing of the things and the pinholes and things definitely caused by me before. So I've been in those shoes, and you definitely want to keep things up if you can. So what do we got? 4 more minutes, enough time for our funny questions. So I literally Google funny questions. There are 81 of them on this list. So pick a number between 1 and 81.
23.
23. All right. I happen to be right on it. What is the worst or most annoying catchphrase? That's a weird one. That's hard.
Oh, man.
I can't even think of any catchphrases.
Oh, man.
Huh.
Where's the beach?
I remember, all the ones I can remember I probably like.
Yeah. Yeah, if you remember it, you like it, right? So, I don't know.
Pick another number real quick.
All right, let's do 79.
79. This is the first time I've had to move to a second question. That was a terrible one. I remember what number that was and not do it. 79. If you could live anywhere, where would you live? That's a good one.
This is an easy one. St. Bart's in the Caribbean. I hope to spend my winters in St. Bart's. I never really want to fully retire, but I hope that there's a point in my life that Laura and I can spend our winter months in St. Bart's. So it's a little island next to St. Martin. There's no golf courses or high-rise hotels, but beautiful blue water. We're not big foodies, but some of the best food in the world. French cuisine, and just great beaches. So that's an easy one for me.
Nice. And you can get a big old boat. You can have a few boats, so get a nice big one that you can sleep in and do all that stuff in, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think Laura would more prefer to live on land, but maybe have a small boat where we can cruise around, do some snorkeling. But there's surf there, natural surf. There's point breaks, there's reef breaks, and we've been blessed the last 15 years. We spend the last 10 days of February there almost every year. So
that's awesome. Nice. So if anybody's ever there, that's ours.
Yeah, look us up. We'll buy you a
and he'll teach you how to surf and take you on some water adventures. And I'll leave all of that information scrolling at the bottom while we close out. A couple announcements. If you're interested in a business spotlight package, which includes Greg coming to your business, showing behind the scenes how the sausage is made, so to speak. You saw him at the Ninja Warrior Dexterity Depot gym where he tried the warp wall, and he actually got it. He got the middle one, I think. And then you also get an interview with me here, like you're saying with me and Justin, and then a networking mixer at your business, COVID permitting and your business permitting, obviously. If you're interested in one of those, you can reach out to Christy for a mixer. We're booked out for a while, but if you want to do an episode just with me, feel free to reach out and I can hook you up. If you're interested in our special offers, Justin has his and all the other ones. Join our email list, one email a week at supportcentralpa.com. You can get sign up there. If you are watching us on YouTube or Instagram or LinkedIn or anywhere other than Facebook, please head over to Facebook and join our Facebook group, Central PA Supports Small Business. The website is different than the name of the group, so it always trips me up. It was taken on the website. Anyway, Central PA Supports Small Business. Go over there, join the group. Lots of good stuff going on in there, and people getting good business and getting a good place also to find a vendor. If you need a plumber or an HVAC or anybody, you can go in there and say, I need this thing, and you'll get tons of good advice. If you're on Clubhouse, follow me. I'm at Agent Derek. We're there every Thursday. Like I said, if you need to buy or sell a house, please contact me. We are in dire need of inventory, and we have about 15 seconds before I hit the too long mark. So I'm just going to say, see you, everybody. Say goodbye, Justin.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Derek. Great fun.